Boris had a big majority, and that caused big problems because you're promising so much to so many people. When they came in with a massive majority, I said massive problems, and they never told anybody clearly what they were going to do, and they all came in with different expectations, not what they've got, and that was the problem. I see the Labour MPs have given up. They see these liars at the top of their party. They see themselves crushed, and they've given up. It's like they've got no fight in them, and all of it is wrong because people are much more savvy than they can ever give them credit for. And I think some of those other stats, a jobless single parent claiming for anxiety with a child on ADHD will get £37,000 a year, which is probably £14,000 more than a family working on the national living wage. They know they are toast. They know they're not going to win the next election. So now they're worrying, do we destabilise the top? Because we might be out of a job even quicker.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Expresso. I'm Steph Spyro and I'm delighted to be joined by our very own Westminster whisperer and Queen of Common Sense, the Tory MP Esther McVey.
Why, thank you, Steph.
So good to be here with you, Esther. Let's dive straight in. Tell me what your Westminster gossip is.
Well, I think it's this. This Labour government is the most deceitful government ever. It lied to get into power. Remember, in its manifesto, it didn't say that it was going to have a digital ID. It didn't say that it was going to remove jury services. And it also did say that it wasn't going to tax working people, right? And now it's in office. It's lying. Just think of the budget, that black hole that didn't exist. It was in surplus. And the problem, it's going to lie to remain in power. It's going to lie to the public. And what have we seen it doing today? It's lying about why it's moving those 4 mayoral elections. It is stopping democracy in its tracks. And I'd say I wouldn't put anything past this Labour government.
And there's even been a lot of lying by omission. So if you think back to the winter fuel payments with pensioners, some of those people voted Labour for the first time. There was no mention of cutting winter fuel payments in the manifesto. That's what they did. They betrayed farmers. Inheritance tax. Steve Reed, the then or former Environment Secretary, had said we're not going to heap inheritance tax on farmers, and that's exactly what they did.
Absolutely right. I know I put out a leaflet in my constituency. There'll be tax on tax on tax, whether it's investments, whether it's pensions, whether it's houses, whether it's your car, it will be taxed. If you remember, Rishi Sunak said that before the election and he was closed down. And Rishi Sunak said it when he replied to Rachel Reeves' first budget, and she absolutely called him a liar and sort of blistering attacks. So you're right, they would say anything to remain in power. So I think what we've got, and you touched on it a bit there, Steph, the mood in Parliament amongst Labour MPs, because they too think they've been lied to, some of them, because there are different tribes, and they too felt they've lied to their constituents. And this week it was the budget debate, it was the budget vote, but a lot of focus was on one vote in particular, and that was that farmers' tax. And you will see that 84 Labour MPs stayed away from Parliament because that's what they're doing now. They're feeling crushed, they're feeling demoted, and they're sort of staying away. So 84 Labour MPs stayed away. We think it was 30 to 40 who abstained deliberately on that farming tax. But only one out of all of them, that was Marcus Campbell, Saviours, voted against, and he's now lost the whip. But he was the only one out of all of them. And I'd say a lot of these new Labour MPs, they're all mouth, no trousers. And that's why you'll see this coup, this removal of Reeves and Starmer didn't really happen. And like I said, they feel crushed. They're feeling sort of demotivated. They know they are toast. They know they're not going to win the next election. So now they're worrying, do we destabilise the top? Because we might be out of a job even quicker.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of Labour MPs are going to want to keep their seats. It's a good job. So where do you think the next opportunity will come for them to attack?
OK, so I've spoken to Labour MPs about this. They know they've missed this opportunity now. Where Streeting also was put back in his box. He also was trying to do a leadership coup. The anti-Burnham one, well, he couldn't really because he wasn't in the House, but he still was out there touting himself, as it were. The next one...
I think an MP was prepared to step down.
There was, but that was also going to be very difficult. There was a couple, actually. So there was Clive Lewis and there was somebody else who said they might do, and they didn't name themselves. But it'd be very difficult in this climate to win a by-election. So they all think their next chance. And I think that's why they've let this one slip. And that's why I'd said it was a 50% chance before Christmas, depending on how bad the budget was. The budget was so awful. We got distracted, didn't we, by the OBR and what went on and the dilemma since there. But they say it's going to be at the local elections, and they're going to do it after that when they are so bad. Logic would say, why wouldn't you do it before the local elections so they're not so bad? But that's where the mood of the Labour MPs, they almost see that it's going to happen. And it's like watching a sort of a train crash, and they're not getting in there and changing. I wouldn't say, oh, we know it's going to be so bad, oh, let's wait till after that. I would say, get in before and try and stop it. But what I will say, Starmer and Reeves are normalising lying now. I think the budget was the biggest lie since Blair's dodgy dossier. I say, the things that they're doing now, and particularly that black hole. And I think Reeves has told so many lies, really. Lies to the voters, lies to the markets, even lies to her cabinet, that I think she doesn't really know now. I'm trying to look at, does she know she's telling a lie? Sometimes it's like she's on the journey to the truth, but she feels she can tell lies along the way. And the reason I say that, she wasn't a chess champion. She didn't win the under-14 Girls' Chess Championship. She came, 26 out of 34. But she was quite good, right? Her CV, well, she'd worked sort of in that area, but it wasn't what she said. So those were more lies. And also the book that she wrote, plagiarism. It's about 20, I think the FT pointed out about 20 pieces that was basically plagiarism. So some of it she did do. So I think her relationship with the truth is very, very estranged.
Is there a risk that lies that go unpunished give the sense that the government is above the law? Is that your sense of it? Because I mean, if the lies are coming out and no one's taking a fall from it, then I mean the public can't be happy.
And I think this goes to the nub of the point. These lies aren't just lies of convenience. These lies are the doctrine of the left. Because they tell you what they think is good for you to hear. They're somehow above you, and you probably couldn't take it. They're going to tell you what you think you should hear. So accuracy comes a distant second to actually what they think they should. And that's very much authoritarianism, us only telling you what we think you should know because we know better, is basically what it's saying. And it goes all the way back to Greek times. It goes all the way back to Plato. And it's known as the noble lie, where some of us were cast from pure gold and the other of us were from base metal. And so they know, they will tell you what to do because they are the chosen ones. And that is how you keep people. They are in charge and you are the plebs. This is the state and you will be told how to live your life.
Is it ever okay for a government to lie to its citizens? And if so, when?
No, I don't think it is. No, I think what you do is you explain to people clearly enough about this is what's going on. Now, if you are saying something completely different, you're in the middle of a war or a battle, and therefore there are things you're not going to say that would come like under the Official Secrets Act, things like that. You don't say because it would weaken your position in a very careful negotiation, in a very careful war situation. Yes, we get that. And we have laws in place to protect that.
Yeah.
We've got all that. But as a rule, what they did in the budget, which was meant to be about growth, and it wasn't, it was about benefit Britain, is a lie. Removing the jury service and not telling us is a lie. Letting all those people out of prison is a lie. If they had wanted to have set that narrative, they should have done it and been voted in or not, and they didn't. They just talked about change. Well, can I tell you, it's change for the worse. Can I tell you, if it's about money, all we've got is change in our pockets.
Yeah.
Everything they've done is dismantle our way of living.
And you mentioned it there briefly, but the cancellation of, or the postponements of the mayoral elections, that is undemocratic. And dare I say borderline a dictatorship.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what they've done here, they're frightened, I think. They don't want to confront that they're going to lose badly. By the way, these aren't their seats anyway, so it's quite strange that they've chosen to do this now with these seats. But yes, they've decided they don't want to go to the polls. And remember, the areas that they're doing it, now Essex definitely would, they're all sort of Conservative or Reform wins, and Reform's doing very well there. But these areas, these 4 areas, they delayed their local elections last year. This is on top
in
of
9
that.
areas,
This
I
is
think.
removing the Democratic vote from them. This is not being accountable for what you're doing. And they've done so much wrong. They're running scared and remaining in office for all the wrong reasons.
And it's amazing that we are having this conversation a little after a year, really, since they came to power with a huge majority, which is incredible. So who knows?
And I think, I think people are also saying, where will they go next with the lies? And that's what people are now worried about. And I think this is going to be the betrayal of Brexit. They've buttered people up. They've seen how far they can push with the lies, particularly that 2-child cap. But it's where they're going to do. Now, we know that Baroness Shafik, and that's a chief economic advisor, has already said, let's get back in the customs union. Starmer's already said, oh, no, we're not going to do that. He's brought in his European minister, Nick Thomas-Symonds, as you will know, and he's already said, oh, well, we don't know, things might change, so they're buttering that, and that would be a massive betrayal of the people. Maybe that's why they're delaying those areas, because these are the areas that would have been Brexiteers, so they're not going to have a say. If they do this quickly, they're not going to have a say until 2028. So I think they're lining it all up. And I think what's interesting is how Labour deal with lies. Like, what did they do? So think of the 2-child cap. They were not going to remove the 2-child cap. When it first came for a vote, they took the whip away from the 7 rebels.
Yeah.
Right? A year later, they got it back. But now they're saying, oh, we've always wanted to do it. It's about child poverty. We're proud we've done it. We're really proud of our budget. No, they weren't. They lied about it in the manifesto, and they're lying about it now. And I think this, as I said, relationship with the truth, it's not just fluid, it's broken.
Yeah.
They don't have one.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that trust with the public is absolutely broken too.
And in fact, if anybody only needs to look at PMQs yesterday, which was shocking, right? One question from a Labour backbencher, Graham Stringer, said, what will you be doing? You won't be bringing back blasphemy laws, and you won't be doing anything about Islamophobia. Keir Starmer, no, I won't. Right? 3 or so questions later, from an independent, Shocker Adams, said pretty much asked the same question about Islamophobia. That's why, we thought you were going to do that. And he went, oh, yes, we're taking it very seriously. We will. This is within a couple of sentences.
Yeah.
We're seeing U-turns.
That's what he's known for. That's what Labour is known
Mr.
for.
Flip-flop. The only thing he certainly wants to do is him stay in power. And again, the only thing I think now, it always makes me laugh. Rachel Reeves hated to be called, didn't she? Rachel from accounts.
Yeah.
I think she's now going to be called Pinocchio Reeves, because I think she wanted to be remembered, didn't she, as the first female chancellor. I think she's going to be known and remembered as the worst chancellor ever. And she's also going to be the modern day Pinocchio, because she's lost track of reality. And I think she'll be the modern day tale, the modern day cautionary tale about lying and liars. We just have to see what's going to happen to her.
We'll have to wait and see.
Liar, liar, bums on fire.
Let's see if Pinocchio Reeves catches on. But you touched on Reform and the Tories there. We spoke very briefly yesterday on the Expresso about a potential Reform-Tory coalition. So what's the chatter in the tea rooms? How likely do you think this is?
Okay, well, I think there's a couple of things. I think it's a bit early now, but if you believe, like I do, you put country first and you put party politics second, and it is vital we remove this terrible, shocking, socialist, authoritarian, Stalinist government, then for me, we will possibly need to do, or we will need to do, some electoral pact. Now, let me clear that up. It will not be a merger of the parties. That is not. They are two independent parties. But it could mean that in some seats that Conservatives are never going to win, but Reform is, then there will be a sort of allowing them to win and vice versa. So that's what I'm talking about. And by the way, that happens all the time. And that happens with Labour and the Lib Dems. And another reason, when we get to the next general election, I think what you'll see, it's going to be an election of the right versus the left. And the left are already aligning up with this rainbow coalition. They've already got Labour, Lib Dems and Green aligning. And I think we've got an example of that in that Carefully by-election. Reform could have won. Reform did incredibly well. It didn't quite win. Plaid won. And that was because of that rainbow coalition. So I think, for me, it's country before party. It's get rid of this socialist government. And if needs must, there will be.
And talk me through kind of timings of that, because Nigel Farage doesn't seem to have the best relationship or hold Kemi Badenoch in the highest regard. She is currently Tory leader. So at what point do negotiations about this deal start to happen? How close towards a general election? And does Kemi need to go for that to take place?
Right. Well, I don't believe Kemi needs to go, and I don't think she will be going, so I don't think that's the case. But you are right. Timing is everything in life. Socialists are the worst negotiators ever. Starmer certainly is. Hence, he did the Chagos Islands, right? You've got to get your timing right.
Yeah.
And now it wouldn't be the right time because Reform, absolutely in the ascendancy, is doing very well. However, what you are seeing, and Kemi's done really well the last, 7, 8 PMQ. She's done well since the party conference. In fact, if you look at the pollings, the Conservatives have come up. If anything, Reform is faltering slightly. So when she's in a better position, yes, that would be the time. And equally, when it gets closer to the general election, to see where things are, what is happening. You don't do things too far in advance, and it won't be happening for these local elections. Absolutely not. Nigel Farage, Reform, want to do their best showing, so it will be there. But if we go back to that front page on the FT, and that was, Nigel told potential donors it was inevitable that Reform would do a deal with the Conservatives. So that was the FT front page. So it was donors, it was him trying to get money, it was them saying we want a Conservative government in. So I believe there's a bit of truth in this. This, to me, says there's a bit of truth. And then, I don't know if you've got Farage's text.
Well, his tweets soon after that.
His tweets to answer that.
He said a false story in the FT tonight claims Reform would do a deal with the Tories. After 14 years of dishonesty and lies, they should never be forgiven. The idea I'd work with them is ludicrous. They betrayed my trust in 2019, and we will ensure they cease to be a national party in May.
Okay, so when I read that straight away, I thought, he doth protest too much. I thought he's been caught out. He's been trying to get money in there. He said that. Maybe he's been asked that because he's going to Conservative donors.
He absolutely is. So today it's been confirmed that he's received the biggest donation of £9 million from biggest donation from a living person.
Yes, he has indeed. And that was Christopher Harbin there, aviation crypto entrepreneur, a Conservative donor. He'd also given £1.5 million to Boris Johnson in the past, given money to the Brexit party in the past. So what I'm saying, he's going to Conservative donors. So I'm sure there was that conversation that was said there. So I think he had to put that statement out.
And how do you see him using that $9 million? Is it going to be rocket fuel for the May elections?
It could be. You'll have to see the spending limits of spending time, putting the infrastructure in there, what he's trying to do. So, possibly it could be sort of bigger than that. It could be long term than that. They could be thinking of the general election because the local elections are coming quickly. And so we'll see. But again, if we just look what happened at the by-election as well the other night that was in Long Eaton. And Reform held on to that one, but it dropped by 7.7%, and the Conservatives came up by 4.2%, and they only won by 23 votes. So I think the donors, very savvy, again, are saying, who's likely to win, what do we need to happen. If you combine the Tory and the Reform share, it's going to be 45% they will win. So I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
And this is where they could possibly do. And remember, they just want to get rid of that socialist government.
And I wonder, what impact is that, do you think, going to have on defections to Reform? So this week we saw former Tory Red Wall MPs, Jonathan Gullis and Leah Nietzsche, defecting to Reform.
And Chris Green.
Exactly, yes. So do you think hopes of a deal might stem those defections?
No, I think that, I mean, it's always sad to lose colleagues, and I know all them very well. But there'll be a lot of personal interest in that. Sure. How will they win that seat again? You rightly said it was a red wall seat. Are they going to win with a Reform? Is this the step they want to take now? No. So I think that's what they were thinking themselves there. And I think Nigel Farage and Reform have got to be very careful. Remember, they said, we don't want Conservatives in our party. That's why I said there was a lot of, he doth protest too much. We don't want them. They're not saying this. Let's look at who they've taken into their party.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Conservative MPs. It's 3 Conservative MPs. Yeah. And some do not even agree with Reform. So you've got somebody like Jake Berry, who they took in, who was a Remain voter, agrees with net zero and is a Boris devotee. Nadine Dorris went in as a Boris devotee. Yeah. In fact, I think that was sat very uncomfortably when she announced that. I think that people were uncomfortable with what she said. And I think she was looking at it as a vehicle for Boris to come back.
Interesting.
She was hoping that he would get in, and it absolutely fell flat, so it didn't happen whatsoever.
And actually, also on that, so Reform and Tories do have quite significant differences in their policies. So if I think of like the 2-child cap, how do you see them coming together with like policy issues, or do you think that's not a problem?
So the 2-child cap, I think, for me, was a mistake by Reform, and they know what they're doing, but a mistake. A lot of Tories did not agree with that. Most people in the country now do not want to see the benefits bill go up. It's so unfair. Yeah. And so that, to me, was a misstep. However, I could well be wrong, and he knows his polls better. And if you look, that he is angling towards a lot more sort of the Labour seats.
Yes.
So maybe that was something he wants to do. It's also a bit Trump-like, a bit protectionist, a bit sort of statist. So obviously he is sort of pivoting slightly that way, away from the Conservative vote. So the 2-child cap removal pushed Conservatives back to me in my seat. You saw that shift, and I think that's why you've now seen the Conservatives go up, and it's now the most trusted political party on the economy, and I think that is down to the benefits and the 2-child cap.
Well, that brings us swiftly on to welfare. So Rachel Reeves' budget has been described as a benefit street budget, and that seems to have stuck. So tell me what your thoughts are with where Labour's at on welfare.
Okay, so it's got a little bit of a war and a little bit of a battle going on within the party there. So yes, benefits Britain, the unfairness there, the people who are working are paying over to people on benefits who are going to get more money. So you've got 560,000 people on benefits on average are going to get a rise of £5,300, whereas most people in work are seeing a decrease in that. So you've taxed working people by 26 billion. And you're giving to people on benefits 16 billion. It is not going down very well at all. But speaking to backbenchers, and there's tribes within the Labour Party. So some of those have said to me, who are working class sort of Labour voters originally, Labour families and now Labour, they said, we're unhappy with where this is going because we thought we were the party of the working class. And this makes us now the party of the benefits class. And they're not happy. And they're saying it's all Reeves's fault because of her first budget that was so disastrously wrong, that they were short, if you remember, of that £5 billion. And somebody said the best place to get it from is the benefits budget. So she went to her backbenchers, even those who agree in reducing the benefits bill. But she just came to top slice it. And they saw that as just a grab with no thought. And it was illogical coming out of the disability benefit. So they were unhappy. So they said to me, she was at fault. We now don't know where to go, but we know we've got to alter it. And I said, absolutely right, because I came straight out and said, you cannot change a benefit with a top slide. It is substantial work. Before the Conservatives came into power in 2010, Ian Duncan Smith had been working on it from 2007. It is not a simple fix. It is not a quick grab. And you've got to get the narrative right about fairness, about getting you into work, about improving your life chances. And they have done none of that. And they will be remembered as benefit party. Already, the number of children growing up in workless households is at its highest on record, up to 1.5 million, whereas Ian Duncan Smith and me and our team brought it down to the lowest on record. Children growing up in workless households are going to be in poverty.
And speaking about children and benefits, that is interlinked with mental health. So some stats that struck me, the number of 16 to 34-year-olds off work with long-term sickness because they have a mental health condition rose by 76% between 2019 and last year. And almost 9 million people in England are on antidepressants, and that is up from about 7 million a decade ago. That is extraordinary. The number of people, or children and adults off work, getting benefits because of mental health issues.
And there's an array in mental health. There is serious mental health, and what we're talking about here is the anxiety, the ADHD, lesser slight depression, etc. Because now 500 people a day are approved to get benefits with mental health conditions. This is a problem, and I said that's the unfairness. And we have to give people resilience. I will say to you, we all get anxious, we all get upset, we'll all go through trials and tribulations in our life where things will be bad. Somebody might have died, a relationship might have ended, you might have lost your job. You might get all three together, and trust me, that is one downer, and you're going to have a bad life, right? But we need to treat people and help them out of that, and often work, getting a new job, having a new thing to focus on, meeting new friends, a new life, going on holiday, whatever it is, will get you out of that. And I think that's a problem. And I will say, over many years, we're all losing our resilience. And I was thinking, where has that come from? Are we not doing enough sport in school? That, again, that socialist vision that everybody wins and nobody loses. And that's why I think adults are now suffering quite a bit, because they haven't, in their formative years, suffered that, I didn't come first, I came second. I didn't come top, I came last. I'm not playing sports. We're not, understanding there's always a winner and a loser, because that is life. And we're trying to cushion kids earlier on in life, and it cannot be. So that's one of the reasons. Then obviously social media is another one. And there are other things that will play on the brain.
It's about, you use the word resilience, but it's a bit like having grit and just being able to endure bad things.
Yes, and you can't wrap people up in cotton wool. Yeah. And that's what this sort of socialist, yes, it's getting people dependent. It's thinking that we can look out for them, going back to them being superior and knowing, those being able to tell us what to do. Yeah. They believe they can lie because it is a noble cause. And all of it is wrong because people are much more savvy than they can ever give them credit for. And I think some of those other stats, a jobless single parent claiming for anxiety with a child on ADHD will get £37,000 a year, which is probably £14,000 more than a family working on the national living wage. And this is what is not fair. And this is why the country is up in arms, saying we are being crucified, we are working morning, noon and night, and we're paying for people on benefits. What's the point? We're going to give up. You cannot have a country giving up. And the reason this upsets me, and I give that analogy back to the Labour MPs, I see the Labour MPs have given up. They see these liars at the top of their party. They see themselves crushed, and they've given up. It's like they've got no fight in them. I see this Labour government doing it to the public and to the people, crushing us, taking out our very sort of life, getting rid of our money, getting rid of our fun, telling us what we can do, and they will crush them. And that means they're easily manipulated and controlled.
And that is a dangerous place to be in a democracy that's given up fighting for a better future.
And this is what we're seeing, the delaying of those elections. This is what we're seeing now with this digital ID controlling where you're going, this face recognition technology, not just looking for shoplifters, but will be connecting government agencies, your passport. No, this is control. Extremists watching us, telling us what to do. And that is a problem, and that's where we're shifting.
When it comes to always the ballot box, that is the place where people can have their say on the direction of the country. And we've spoken a bit about general election and timings. Do you think it's going to be a 2029 general election? Farage wants it in 2027. If you had a crystal ball in front of you, what would be your guess? How do you see this playing out, I guess, is the question.
So me and my husband, Mr. Philip Davis, are always talking about this. He says there's not a cat in hell's chance it's coming earlier. He said, why? Because these people will all be out of a job and turkeys don't vote for Christmas. It's not cat in hell. And now you're seeing how Starmer and Reeves are clinging on to power. They don't believe in anything. They just believe in themselves and they're clinging on to power. So that would really fit into Philip's beliefs. Logic would mean they would stay there. I have always said I don't think this will now hinge on logic. I think it will end up being emotional. I think it will be a battle from a different dimension, whether it's a financial crash, which we're on our way, and the IMF step in, so that has been out of their control, so it could be that. Or it could be because Starmer is an arrogant man. I've noticed this about him. There is a vanity there. There is an arrogance about there. We've talked about the lies that he can do, flip on a sixpence and doesn't really care at all. And he might say to his party, you want to get rid of me as leader? Well, the public voted me in. Well, the public is going to vote me out and I'm going to go to a general election because you're not getting rid of me. You're not moving me out of number 10, such is the arrogance of the man. Then you will go to a general election. However, the king could intervene there and say there is no point you going to a general election. You've got a big majority. You've got a working majority. This would absolutely disrupt the country's running. So if it did it too soon, there could be that, which is quite incredible. But me personally, I've always thought we're going to have an earlier general election. It won't be logic that dictates it. It will be an external fact. Starmer himself, the economy, or his MPs getting some guts back, getting that fight back, knowing it is so bad they need him gone.
It's, again, just mind-boggling that when Labour first came into power, people thought, oh, that's such a big majority, they'll be here easily, 10 years. And yet we're having this conversation at the time that we are. It's amazing.
I said Boris had a big majority and that caused big problems because you're promising so much to so many people. When they came in with a massive majority, I said massive problems, and they never told anybody clearly what they were going to do, and they all came in with different expectations, not what they've got, and that was the problem. But you and I have worked together before.
We have, Esther. So this does feel like a very full circle moment for me, because the last time you and I were in front of a camera was 3 years ago when you brought me onto your TV show, and you were very kind. I felt like a complete deer in headlights, but you were so kind. So yeah, it just feels.
No, listen, you know your stuff. You're in Parliament all the time, so I knew you would absolutely rise to that challenge. So today, 11 out of 10.
Oh, well, thank you very much. You're always a 12 out of 10 at least.
Oh, okay, yeah, go on.
Right, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you, Es, for joining us in the studio, and thank you to you for watching us at home. I'll be back tomorrow to read through some of the lovely comments you've all been leaving us this week. So thank you very much, and bye for now.